The twin moons hung low in the sky as Nari struggled to move. Pain shot through her body with each small motion. Her blue-tinted skin, normally bright with health, had faded to a dull gray. The rock-like surface beneath her felt cold against her, back as she stared up at unfamiliar stars. "Get up," she whispered to herself. "You must get up." But her body refused to obey. The gash in her environment suit exposed her to the thin, toxic atmosphere of this barren moon. Each breath burned her lungs a little more. Only hours ago, Nari had stood proudly among her fellow Vashari scouts. Their mission was simple: survey this system for valuable minerals. Then she had discovered Commander Tyke's secret plans to mine the third planet, a world with developing life forms protected by galactic law. "We cannot harm an emerging world," Nari had argued during their final meeting. "The Council has marked this system as restricted." Commander Tyke had simply stared at her with his 4 cold eyes. "Your concern has been noted, Scout Nari." The attack came without warning. As they returned to their ship, 2 crew members grabbed her arms while Tyke approached with a blade. The cut was quick, precise, designed to damage her suit beyond repair, but leave her alive, at least for a while. "The weak perish so the strong may thrive," Tyke had said, reciting their people's most sacred belief. "Your softness endangers our mission. The colony needs these resources." They had left her there, taking her communication device and emergency beacon. A proper Vashari would accept this fate without complaint. Weakness could not be tolerated among their kind. Nari tried again to move but managed only to roll onto her side. The effort made dark spots dance before her eyes. Her breathing grew more labored as her suit's oxygen supply dwindled. The filtration system beeped its final warning before falling silent. Darkness crept in from the edges of her vision. She thought of her home, the towering crystal cities of the Vashari colony world. She would never see them again. Never again watch the morning light scatter through the crystal spires, creating rainbows across the sky. Nari had always been different. While other children played war games, she had studied ancient texts about cooperation and peace. Her teachers called it a flaw in her thinking. Her parents had been disappointed. Perhaps they were right. A proper Vashari would never question orders. A proper Vashari would put their species first, no matter the cost to others. As her consciousness began to fade, Nari noticed a strange light in the sky. Not the stars or the distant sun, but something moving. A ship? No. No one would come here. This moon orbited the 5th planet in a forgotten system far from regular trade routes, yet the light grew larger, brighter. She blinked, trying to clear her vision. Was her mind creating comfort in her final moments? The Vashari believed the dying often saw things that weren't there, the brain's last attempt to avoid the inevitable end. The ground beneath her trembled slightly. The light was closer now, accompanied by a low humming sound that Nari felt in her bones. With great effort, she turned her head toward the source. A ship unlike any she had seen before had landed less than 100 meters away. Its design was strange, rounded where Vashari ships were angular with soft blue lights instead of the harsh red her people preferred. The vessel bore markings she couldn't recognize. A door opened in its side, creating a rectangle of warm light against the dark landscape. Figures emerged, moving cautiously at first, then with greater speed as they spotted her. They wore protective suits, but even through her fading vision, Nari could tell these were not Vashari. The newcomers had only 2 eyes and moved differently, with smoother motions, aliens, unknown beings. In her weakened state, Nari couldn't tell if they meant threat or salvation. Not that it mattered now. She was too far gone. The first figure reached her side and knelt down. A face peered at her through a clear helmet, a face with features arranged in a way she found oddly calming. The being's mouth moved, but Nari couldn't hear the words through her damaged helmet. Gentle hands examined her suit, finding the tear. The alien looked back toward the others and made quick gestures. More of them hurried forward, carrying equipment. As darkness finally claimed her, Nari's last conscious thought was confusion. Why would strangers help her? What could they possibly gain from saving someone left behind as worthless? The answer would change everything she believed. June tapped his fingers against the control panel of the Pathfinder as the ship settled onto the moon's surface. Something about this mission felt different. They were only supposed to map this system, not make contact with anyone. Yet the faint distress signal they had picked up couldn't be ignored. "Life signs are very weak," said Yoon, looking at her scanner. "And the readings are strange. Not human for sure." June nodded. "Prepare the medical kit with universal treatments. We don't know what we're dealing with." The crew moved quickly, putting on their environment suits. The moon's atmosphere was thin and full of toxic gases. No one could breathe here without protection. "Captain, I must remind you of Protocol 7, said Juan, the ship's safety officer. "Unknown alien contact requires authorization from Earth Command." "There's no time," June replied, securing his helmet. "By the time we get approval, whoever is out there will be dead. I'll take full responsibility." Outside, the landscape was barren and cold. Their lights cut through the darkness, sweeping across rocky ground until they found her. A slender figure in a damaged suit, skin a faded blue-gray color, clearly not human. 4 slender fingers on each hand. A face with features just different, enough to seem alien, yet familiar enough to read the pain there. "She's dying," June said, kneeling beside the stranger. "Look at this cut in her suit. This was deliberate." Yoon scanned the alien with her medical device. "Her biology is nothing I've seen before. Oxygen-based. But her blood chemistry..." She shook her head. "I don't know if our treatments will help or harm her." "We have to try," June decided. "Careful now. Let's get her to the ship." They lifted the alien gently onto a stretcher. Her eyes fluttered open briefly. Strange eyes with vertical pupils before closing again. June felt a surge of determination. He hadn't become a survey captain to let anyone die on his watch, human or not. Back aboard the Pathfinder, they placed the alien in the medical bay. Yoon worked frantically, analyzing the stranger's biology while administering basic life support. The rest of the crew gathered outside, watching through the window with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Her suit has markings," said Min, the linguist. "I've been comparing them to our database. They might be Vishari, a species we've only heard about through second-hand reports. They're known to be highly advanced but rarely interact with other species." "And hostile?" June asked. Min shrugged. "Unknown. They keep to themselves mostly." Hours passed as Yoon worked. Finally, she emerged from the medical bay looking tired but satisfied. "She's stabilized," Yoon announced. "Her body is responding to the oxygen supplement I created. It's not perfect, but it should keep her alive until she can heal." "When will she wake up?" June asked. "Hard to say. Her brain activity is increasing, so perhaps soon." June took the first watch by the alien's bedside. He'd insisted on it, wanting to be there when their guest awoke. He studied her features, the fine scales on her forehead, the slightly pointed ears, the delicate structure of her face. Despite the obvious differences, he could see intelligence and feeling there. Near midnight, ship time, her eyes opened. Startled, June sat up straighter. Those vertical pupiled eyes fixed on him, widening in what could only be fear. She tried to move but was too weak. "It's okay," June said softly, knowing she couldn't understand him. He kept his hands visible, and his movements slow. "You're safe now." The alien watched him warily. She spoke, her voice musical but the words incomprehensible. Min rushed in with a translation device. "It needs more samples of her language but should start picking up patterns soon." For several minutes they exchanged simple gestures. June offered water, showing her how to drink it first. The alien hesitated, then accepted. After an hour, the translator began converting basic words. "Why, help?" came the halting translation of her question. June smiled. "Because you needed it." The alien seemed confused by this answer. She pointed to herself and then to June, making a gesture like an exchange. I think she's asking what you want in return, Min explained. June shook his head. Nothing. We help because that's what people should do. When the translator conveyed this, the alien stared at him in what appeared to be disbelief. She said something that the translator couldn't fully catch, but one word came through clearly. Impossible. June realized then how different their worlds must be. What kind of society would find compassion impossible to understand? What had happened to leave her injured and alone on that moon? My name is June, he said, pointing to himself. This is the Pathfinder. You're safe here. After a long pause, she pointed to herself. Nari, she said, the first word she'd spoken that needed no translation. 3 days passed before Nari could walk unassisted. The humans watched her carefully but without the suspicion she expected. Their medical officer, Sue, checked her vital signs twice daily, always with a gentle touch that Nari found strange. On her world, medical procedures were efficient and impersonal. No one smiled as they treated you. The translation program improved quickly. Nari learned that these humans were explorers, not warriors or miners. Their ship, the Pathfinder, was mapping the system for scientific purposes only. Why did you help me? Nari asked June when they sat in what the humans called the common room. She still couldn't understand their motivation. June looked surprised by the question. You were hurt. Anyone would help. No, not anyone. Not my people. Nari's fingers tapped against the table. Vashari, leave behind the weak. It wastes resources to save those who cannot contribute. The humans exchanged glances. Nari had learned to read their expressions better now. They were disturbed by her words. That seems harsh, said Day, the engineer who always carried small tools in his pockets. It is practical, Nari replied. We have survived for thousands of years this way. The strongest live, the weakest do not. Our species grows stronger with each generation. Sue shook her head. But you lose so much. The physically weak can be mentally strong. They can contribute in different ways. Nari had never considered this. On her world, strength was measured in very specific ways. If you could not keep up, you were left behind. It was that simple. Show me your world, she requested. The human set up a screen and showed her images of Earth. Nari watched in amazement. Their planet teemed with different kinds of life. Their cities had ramps alongside stairs. Their medical facilities cared for the sick and injured regardless of status or potential. They had devices to help those who couldn't walk or see or hear. You spend so much to help so few, she said, trying to understand. How is this efficient? Maybe efficiency isn't everything, June replied. Maybe there's value in every life. That night, Nari lay awake thinking about his words. The concept felt dangerous, revolutionary. If her commander heard such ideas, he would declare them a threat to Vashari order. The next morning, alarms blared throughout the ship. Nari rushed from her quarters to find the crew in panic. The environmental system had malfunctioned. Oxygen levels were dropping in several sections of the ship. The recycler is failing, Day explained, his hands moving quickly over a control panel. Something contaminated the filters. How long until we can't breathe? June asked. 2 hours, maybe. Nari stepped forward. I can help. The humans looked at her doubtfully. Sue was the first to nod. Let her try. Nari explained that Vashari ships used a different filtration system, one she was trained to repair. Though the technology wasn't identical, the principles were similar. She worked alongside Dai, teaching him as they rerouted systems and created a temporary solution. With minutes to spare, they restored oxygen flow. Everyone breathed easier. Dai smiled at Nari and offered his hand in what she had learned was a gesture of friendship or gratitude. We couldn't have done it without you, he said. That evening, the humans held what they called a celebration. They shared special food and told stories. When they included Nari in their festivities, treating her contribution as equal to any of theirs, she felt something shift inside her. On my world, she said quietly to June as the others laughed at a story Yoon was telling, I would never be sitting here. Why not? Because I questioned orders. I noticed my commander was planning to mine a protected planet with developing life. When I pointed out this violated galactic law, he decided I was a problem. She touched her side where her wound was still healing. On my world, disagreement is weakness. June considered this. On our world, disagreement can be strength. Different perspectives help us find better solutions. Like today with the oxygen system, Nari realized, if all your people thought the same way, we might all have suffocated. June finished with a small smile. Nari watched the humans interact, arguing sometimes, agreeing others, each contributing their unique skills to the group. It was chaotic compared to the rigid hierarchy of her people, yet somehow it worked. Later, as Nari returned to her quarters, she passed a small mirror in the corridor. She stopped, surprised by her reflection. Her skin had regained its healthy, blue color. But something else had changed too. Her eyes held a new expression, one she had never seen on a Vashari face before. Hope. The message came while the crew ate breakfast. The communication system beeped with an incoming transmission from an unknown ship. June answered it, and the screen filled with the image of a Vashari male. His four eyes narrowed when he saw the humans, then widened slightly when Nari appeared behind them. So, the traitor lives, he said, his words translated by the ship's computer. I am Commander Tyke of the Vashari Exploration Force. You have taken one of our criminals. Return her immediately. Nari stepped back, her body tense. June moved slightly in front of her, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Tyke. Nari is our guest, June replied calmly. She was injured when we found her. By her own actions, Tyke said. She betrayed our mission and endangered our colony's future. She must face Vashari justice. What justice involves cutting someone's suit and leaving them to die? June asked. Tyke's upper eyes blinked slowly. Our ways are not yours to question, human. We will dock with your vessel in 3 hours. Prepare to transfer the criminal, or we will take her by force. The screen went black. The crew turned to Nari, who stood trembling. He will destroy this ship, she said. Tyke never makes empty threats. Can we outrun them? June asked Dai. The engineer shook his head. Their ship is faster based on the readings I'm getting, and better armed. Then we fight, said Juan, the Yao safety officer who had initially opposed rescuing Nari. Nari looked at them in shock. You would risk yourselves for me? You're one of us now, Sue said simply. They spent the next hours preparing. Nari told them everything she knew about Vashari ships, their weapons, their shields, their tactics. The Pathfinder wasn't built for battle, but they could reinforce some sections and plan evasive maneuvers. 2.5 hours later, alarms blared. They're early, Day said, checking the scanner, and they're not slowing down to dock. Everyone to your stations, June ordered. Nari, stay with Sue in the medical bay. It's the most protected section. Nari nodded but felt useless. These humans were risking everything for her, and she was hiding. The first hit rocked the ship. Lights flickered as systems diverted power to shields. The second hit was worse. June's voice came over the communication system. They're targeting our engines. They want to disable us, not destroy us. In the medical bay, Nari paced while Sue prepared for injuries. Another blast, stronger than before, threw them both to the floor. The lights went out completely before emergency power kicked in. Sue's communicator crackled. Medical bay, we need help. It was Day's voice. Engineering section is hit bad. I'm trapped under a support beam and atmosphere is venting. On my way, Sue replied, grabbing her emergency kit. It's too dangerous, Nari said. That section could decompress completely. He's crew. Sue answered simply. I have to try. Nari made a decision. I'm coming with you. My scales can withstand brief exposure to vacuum better than your skin. They ran through corridors filled with smoke. Another hit sent them sprawling. The ship groaned around them like a wounded animal. When they reached engineering, the situation was worse than expected. A hole the size of a fist had opened in the hull. Emergency fields held back most of the air, but the pressure was dropping. Day lay pinned under a fallen beam, his face pale with pain and lack of oxygen. "The field generator is failing," he gasped. "You have about 2 minutes before this whole section decompresses." Sue immediately began treating his injuries while Nari examined the beam. It was too heavy for Sue to lift alone, and Dee couldn't. "Help, get out," Day urged them. "Save yourselves." Nari felt something stir inside her, a feeling no proper Vashari should have. Without hesitation, she positioned herself by the beam and pushed with all her strength. Pain shot through her still healing body, but the beam moved slightly, enough for Sue to pull Day free. The emergency field flickered. Warning lights flashed redder and more urgent. They had seconds, not minutes. "Go," Nari told Sue. "I'll help him." Together, they half-carried Day toward the exit. The field failed. Just as they reached the doorway, the sudden rush of escaping air pulled at them. Nari felt her skin burning from the brief exposure to vacuum, but she held on to Day tightly as Sue sealed the door behind them. In the corridor, they collapsed, breathing hard. Day looked at Nari with wonder. "You saved my life," he said. "Why?" Nari thought about the Vashari way, how she should have left him to die, how his weakness should have been his end. Then she thought about what these humans had taught her. "Because," she said finally, "every life has value." Through the ship's walls, they felt another impact. The battle wasn't over, but something had changed inside Nari. For the first time in her life, she knew exactly what she was fighting for. Remember to properly cite all specific facts, figures, and quotes from the search results using tags per Claude's citation instructions. The Galactic Council station hung like a silver wheel against the blackness of space. Its neutral territory provided temporary safety for the damaged Pathfinder, which had barely escaped the Vashari attack. Emergency repairs had allowed them to limp to this sanctuary, where ships of 100 different species docked in peace. Nari stood beside June as they faced the Council representatives, 3 beings from different worlds who would decide her fate. One was tall and insect-like, another resembled a living tree, and the third was a creature of shifting colors that floated above its seat. "We have reviewed your evidence," said the tree being, its voice surprisingly melodic. "The mining of protected worlds is a serious violation of galactic law." June had presented recordings from the Pathfinder's sensors showing the Vashari ship's activities near the developing world. Nari had testified about Commander Tech's plans, her voice steady despite her fear. "The Vashari Exploration Force claims this female is a criminal," said the color-shifting being. "They demand her return. She exposed their illegal activities," June replied firmly. "That makes her a whistleblower, not a criminal." The insect being's antennae twitched. "We cannot interfere with internal Vashari matters. However, we can investigate their mining operations. Until that investigation is complete, the one called Nari may remain under neutral protection." Relief washed over Nari's face. It wasn't permanent safety, but it was time. Time to figure out what came next in a life that had changed completely. As they left the council chamber, Day approached them, walking with a slight limp from his injuries. "They're letting us dock for repairs," he said. "We'll be here at least 10 days. "Good," said June. "We all need rest." That evening, the crew gathered in a viewing lounge on the station. Through large windows, they could see countless stars and the gentle curve of a nearby planet. Ships of various designs moved between the station's docking arms. Nari watched it all with wonder. In her 20 years of life, she had never seen so many different species coexisting peacefully. On Vashari ships, aliens were either threats or resources to be exploited. "What will you do now?" Sue asked, sitting beside her. Nari touched her, side where her wound had finally healed completely. "I don't know. I can never go home." "You could come with us," June said, joining them. "Earth would welcome you. Your knowledge of Vashari technology would be valuable, but more importantly, you've become part of this crew." "Part of a human crew?" Nari asked, still not quite believing it. "Is that so strange?" Yoon smiled. "You saved Day's life. You helped Huz escape Tyke's ship. You belong with us now." Nari looked at each of their faces, So alien to her once, now so familiar. These humans with their strange ideas about helping the weak, about the value of every life, had changed her forever. "There's another option," she said quietly. "I could be a voice for change among my people." The humans exchanged glances. "The Vashari aren't evil," Nari continued. "They're just limited by old beliefs. If they could see other ways to live, to thrive without abandoning their weakest members." "That sounds dangerous," June said with concern. "It is," Nari admitted. "But you humans taught me that some things are worth the risk." Later that night, unable to sleep, Nari wandered to the observation deck. The station was quieter now, most visitors resting. She stood alone before the vast window, watching the stars. She sensed someone approach and turned to see June. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. Nari shook her head. "Too many thoughts." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching a small ship dock at the station. "I've decided," Nari said finally. "I want to stay with the Pathfinder, with all of you. But I also want to record my experiences, to share what I've learned about humans and your way of life. Perhaps someday when it's safer, my people can hear it." June smiled. "We'd be honored to have you stay." "There's something I've been wanting to ask," Nari said. "That first day when you found me dying on that moon, how did you know I was worth saving?" June looked thoughtful. "We didn't. That's the point, Nari. Everyone is worth saving because everyone has potential. Everyone deserves a chance." Nari turned back to the stars, seeing them differently now. Each point of light represented possibilities, lives connected across the vastness of space. On one of those worlds, her people continued as they always had, never knowing there were other ways to live. "Perhaps someday," she whispered, "they'll understand." The next morning, Nari entered the Pathfinder's bridge wearing a human-style uniform, with the ship's insignia that Day had made for her. The crew welcomed her with smiles and nods of respect. As the ship prepared to depart, she took her new place among them. No longer an alien rescued from death, but a crew member with a purpose. The ship's engines hummed to life, carrying her toward a future she never could have imagined. A future where being left for dead had somehow given her a chance to truly live.